The Santa Fe summer was relentless, the kind of dry heat that made the air shimmer like a lie. I'd just gotten home from a week-long project in Albuquerque, my boots still dusty from the site, when I caught it. A whiff of unfamiliar cologne clinging to the throw blanket on our couch. It wasn't mine too sharp, too expensive, like cedar and leather with a hint of arrogance. Lauren and I had been married 8 years, and in our Adobe-style house on the edge of town, everything had its place, its smell, its rhythm. This cologne didn't belong. I'm not the guy who jumped to conclusions. At 35, I've learned most problems. Have simple fixes. I'm a civil engineer. I build bridges, literal and figurative. Lauren, a freelance graphic designer, was the creative one, always buzzing with ideas, her laughter filling our home like sunlight. But that scent hit me like a crack in a foundation. I draped the blanket back over the couch, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and stood in the living room, the ceiling fan clicking above me, the desert sun bleeding through the blinds. Maybe a client hugged her, I told myself. Maybe it was nothing. But my gut, the one that saved me from bad contracts and worse fights, said otherwise. Lauren was out when I got home, her text saying she was at a coffee shop finishing a logo pitch. She'd been working late a lot lately, her laptop glowing into the night, her phone buzzing with notifications she'd silence with a quick smile. I didn't think much of either job was feast or famine, and she was riding a wave of new clients. But now, that cologne was a splinter in my mind. I sat on the couch, the scent stronger up close, and noticed something else. A single dark hair, too short to be hers, curled against the cushion. I didn't confront her when she got home. Lauren breezed in around 6, her sundress swirling, her hair loose and sun-kissed. "Hey, stranger," she said, kissing me, her lips tasting of iced coffee. She smelled like her usual citrus perfume, but I couldn't shake the ghost of that cologne. "How's Albuquerque?" "Hot, dusty. Missed you," I said, keeping it light. "Blanket smells weird. You have a client over?" Her smile didn't falter, but her hand paused on her bag. "Oh, probably just the dry cleaner," she said, laughing. "They use this awful spray. I'll wash it." She moved to the kitchen, chatting about her pitch, but I caught the way her eyes flicked to the couch, like she was checking for something she'd missed. It was plausible. She was smooth, always had been her charm, could talk a client into a triple budget, but the hair, the cologne didn't add up. I let it go, or pretended to, and we ate dinner on the patio, the desert sky turning purple, cicadas humming in the distance. She was her usual self, teasing me about my sunburn, but I couldn't stop watching her, looking for cracks in the performance. The next morning, I started digging. I'm not a spy, but I'm good at patterns, at finding what doesn't fit. While Lauren was at yoga, I checked the blanket again, no more hair, and it was freshly washed, the cologne gone. Too convenient. I moved to her laptop, left open on the dining table. Her password was still our wedding date, a small relief. Her emails were mostly work client briefs, invoices, but one caught my eye from C. Reed. No subject, just a line. "Missed you last night. Same time tomorrow?" Her reply was a single emoji. Tend. It was dated 2 days ago, when she said she was working late. I cross-referenced the name. A quick Google search pulled up Connor Reed, a photographer based in Santa Fe, early 40s, all brooding headshots and artsy Instagram posts. His feed was full of desert landscapes, gallery openings, and bingo a photo of him at a local bar Lauren loved, posted last week. She liked it. My stomach twisted, but I kept going. I didn't want to believe it. Lauren wasn't the cheating types. He was loyal, or so I'd thought, the kind of woman who'd stay up all night to help me prep for a big meeting. But doubt is a virus, and it was spreading. That afternoon, I checked her phone while she showered, feeling like a creep, but too far in to stop. Her texts with Connor were buried in a thread labeled "Client Work," but they weren't about logos. "Can't stop thinking about you," he'd written. "You're trouble," she'd replied, with a heart. I set the phone down, my hands shaking, the shower's hum mocking me. I needed more than texts. I needed proof, something she couldn't laugh off. On Friday, she said she was meeting a client for drinks at La Fonda, a historic hotel bar downtown. I didn't buy it. I borrowed a buddy's old pickup less conspicuous than my silver Tacoma and followed her. The Santa Fe sunset was brutal, painting the adobe buildings in blood-red hues, the air thick with pinion smoke. She parked at La Fonda, stepped out in a black top and jeans, her hair swept up, and went inside. I waited, parked across the street, my pulse loud in my ears. She didn't come out for 2 hours. When she did, she wasn't alone. A Guido dark hair, leather jacket walked her to her car. They didn't touch, but the way he leaned in, the way she laughed, was too familiar. I snapped a photo with my phone, blurry but clear enough. It was him, Connor, the photographer. I drove home, the desert night swallowing my headlights, my anger burning hotter than the sun. Back home, I got technical. I'm no hacker, but I know enough to snoop. I installed a tracking app on her phone, hidden in a system update she'd never notice. It showed her at La Fonda again the next Tuesday, then at a gallery downtown the following night. I cross-checked her credit card, 80 at the bar, 200 at a boutique she hadn't mentioned. New clothes, maybe for him. I also found a receipt in her purse, crumpled but legible. 2 cocktails at La Fonda, dated last week, with a bartender's name, Maria. I went to the bar the next day, found Maria, and played the concerned husband. My wife was here last week, I said, showing her Lauren's photo. She left her card. You see her with anyone? Maria hesitated, then nodded. Yeah. Blonde, right? She's been in a few times with a guy. Artsy type, always in a jacket, they're close. She shrugged like it wasn't her business. I tipped her. 20 and left, my jaw tight. I started talking to people. Our neighbor, Rosa, a retiree who loved to gossip, mentioned seeing Lauren with a man who wasn't you at the farmer's market a month ago. Thought he was a friend, she said, watering her cacti. I forced a smile, my chest tight. Then I called Lauren's friend, Jess, under the pretense of planning a surprise. Jess was cagey but let slip that Lauren had been stressed and hanging out with new people. New people, right? The evidence was stacking up, but it wasn't just about proof anymore. I was unraveling, caught between rage and grief. I kept seeing Lauren smile, the one that used to be mine, now aimed at him. I wasn't sleeping, the desert heat pressing in, the cicadas screaming outside like they knew my secret. I wondered where I'd gone wrong. Was I too steady, too predictable? Lauren loved chaos, thrived on either art, her late nights, her big dreams. Maybe Connor was her escape, a spark I couldn't match. But that didn't excuse her. It just made me angrier. I got lucky one morning. Lauren left her sketchbook out, the one she used for rough designs. Tucked inside was a Polaroid her and Connor, laughing at what looked like a gallery, his arm around her waist. On the back, in her handwriting, see Jiawan, L. August. It was dated 3 weeks ago. I stared at it, my coffee going cold, the fan clicking above me. This wasn't a fling. This was a choice. The moral weight hit me hard. I could confront her now, blow it all up, but what then? Divorce? Revenge? I didn't want to be the guy who burns his life down, but I couldn't be the one who pretends it's fine, either. Lauren wasn't just cheating, she was rewriting our story, making me the background character. I was done playing that role. I started planning, not just to catch her, but to make her see me, the guy she'd underestimated. The cologne, the hair, the Polaroid, they were my map, and I was following it to the truth. Transition. By the end of the week, I had a dossier of betrayal. Text, a photo, a receipt, GPS logs, and Rosa's offhand remark. But knowing wasn't enough. I needed Lauren to face what she'd done, to feel the weight of her lies. The desert heat was rising, and so was my resolve. She was about to meet the man she thought she could outrun. The Santa Fe sun burned hotter as the week wore on, the desert air thick with tension and the faint scent of betrayal. I'd spent days building a case against Lauren, her unfamiliar cologne, the dark hair on our couch, the Polaroid of her and Connor Reed, the photographer, laughing like I didn't exist. My evidence was ironclad. Flirty texts labeled client work, GPS logs pinning her at La Fonda in a downtown gallery, a bar receipt, and Rosa's gossip about her with a man who wasn't you. But proof wasn't closure. I needed Lauren to face me, to admit what she'd done, to see the husband she'd underestimated. I planned the confrontation with the precision of a bridge blueprint. No shouting in our kitchen, no ambushing her at home. I chose the gallery where she'd been spotted with Kenora, sleek, white-walled space downtown called Luminaria, all glass and pretension. I'd seen it in her sketchbook Polaroid, the backdrop to their cozy moment. On Tuesday, she mentioned a gallery event she was attending for a client's branding project. Perfect. I told her I'd be working late but suggested meeting her there for a drink after. Sounds romantic, she said, her voice bright but her eyes cautious, like she sensed a trap. She wasn't wrong. That morning, I compiled my dossier. The Polaroid, printed text, the LaFonda receipt, GPS screenshots, and Connor's Instagram post from the bar. I even kept the bar receipt in a plastic sleeve. A touch dramatic but deliberate. Lauren was a visual person, and I wanted her to see the weight of her lies. I wasn't just exposing her, I was taking back control, proving I wasn't the guy she could fool with a smile and a story. The day dragged, the desert heat pressing against our adobe walls like it was trying to crack them. I kept replaying our marriage, searching for the moment I lost her. Was it when I took that big project in Albuquerque, leaving her alone for weeks? Or when her freelance gigs started piling up, her late nights becoming her norm? Lauren thrived on chaos or art, her hustle, her need to be seen. Connor, with his gallery openings and leather jacket, was probably her kind of chaos, a spark I couldn't match. But that didn't justify her. It just made me question what I'd missed. I dug deeper into Connor, needing to know the man who'd invaded my life. His website was all moody portfolios and vague artist statements, but his Twitter showed a pattern. Posts about late nights and inspiration at Luminaria, often tagged with Lauren's handle. One photo, from a month ago, showed them at the gallery, her hand on his arm, captioned "Creative Collisions." Creative, my ass. I saved it, my jaw tight, and checked his LinkedIn. Freelance photographer, occasional adjunct professor, no wedding ring in his photos, a drifter, not a husband stealer, just a guy who saw an opportunity and took it. I called Lauren's friend Jess again, playing the clueless husband planning a surprise. Jess was looser this time, maybe because she'd had a glass of wine. Lauren's been weird lately, she said. Always at that gallery with some art guy. Connor, I think? She says it's work, but she trailed off. And I didn't push. I didn't need to. The pieces were falling into place, each one sharper than the last. By afternoon, I was wired, pacing our patio, the cicadas screaming in the heat. The moral dilemma was eating me alive. Confronting her would feel good, but what then? Divorce was the obvious move, but did I want to erase 8 years over a fling? Or was this about pride? About proving I wasn't invisible? I could ruin her send the Polaroid to her clients, tank her reputation. But that felt petty, and I wasn't that guy. Or was I? The heat made everything blurry, like the truth was slipping through my fingers. I got to Luminaria early, the gallery's glass doors reflecting the dying sunset in streaks of orange and red. Inside, it was all minimalist chic. White walls, abstract sculptures, and soft jazz drifting from hidden speakers. The crowd was small, artsy types in linen and denim, sipping wine and murmuring about texture. I wore a blazer, blending in but feeling like an outsider, my folder of evidence tucked in a leather satchel. I found a spot near a massive canvas splattered with blues and grays, perfect for watching the entrance. Lauren arrived at 7:45, a vision in a flowy white dress, her hair loose, a glass of rosé in her hand. She worked the room, all smiles and charm, shaking hands with gallery types. I watched her, my chest tight, remembering the woman who danced with me at our wedding, barefoot and laughing. Now she was a stranger, playing a role I wasn't part of. Then I saw him, Connor, in his predictable leather jacket, weaving through the crowd. They didn't touch, but their glances were electric, a secret shared in plain sight. I waited, letting her think she was safe. She spotted me across the room, waved, and came over, her smile a little too bright. "Hey, you made it," she said, kissing my cheek. "This place is wild, right?" "Wild," I agreed, my voice calm. "Found something interesting at home." I pulled the Polaroid from my satchel, held it low so only she could see. Her smile froze, her eyes darting to the photo of her and Connor, arm in arm, undeniable. "What's this?" she said, her voice tight, still playing dumb. "Where'd you get that?" "From your sketchbook," I said, keeping my tone even. "Along with this," I set the receipt on the canvas's pedestal, then the printed text. "And these." I opened the folder, spreading the GPS logs, Connor's Instagram post. Her face didn't change, but her hand trembled, the rosé sloshing in her glass. "Nate, you're being ridiculous," she hissed, glancing around to make sure no one was watching. "This is a client thing. You're blowing it out of proportion." "Am I?" I leaned in, my voice low, sharp. "Connor Reed, La Fonda. Every Tuesday. I've got your texts, your GPS. Even Rosa saw you with him. Want to tell me it's all branding again?" She laughed, a brittle sound that didn't reach her eyes. "You're spying on me? That's pathetic, Nate. What, you don't trust me?" "Trust?" I snorted, tapping the Polaroid. "You lost that when you started sneaking around with your art guy." "What is it, Lauren? Boredom? His gallery connections? Or just the thrill of screwing me over?" Her jaw tightened, and for a moment I thought she'd bolt. But she stayed, her eyes blazing. "You don't get it," she said. "You're always so steady. Connor sees me, the real me. This," she gestured at the folder, "is nothing. It's not what you think." "Nothing?" I laughed, cold and bitter. "You're in deep, and I've got the receipts. Literally. Keep lying, Lauren." It's almost cute. A gallery assistant hovered nearby, sensing the tension, but I waved her off. Lauren sipped her rosé, her eyes locked on mine, calculating. "What do you want?" she said finally. "To humiliate me? Ruin my career? Go ahead, Nate. You're not perfect either." "I want the truth," I said. "No spin, no charm. You owe me that." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "Fine. Yes, I've been seeing him. It's not love, it's freedom. You wouldn't understand." Freedom. The word hit like a punch, but I didn't flinch. I'd won. In a way forced her to admit it, stripped her defenses, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like losing something I couldn't name. We stood there, the jazz swelling around us, the gallery's lights too bright, like they were exposing us both. I could have walked away, left her with the folder and her guilt. But part of me needed more not an apology, but a reason. Why had she chosen this? Was it really freedom, like she said, or was she running from us, from me? I thought about our early days sketching on our patio, her laugh when I burned dinner. Where had that Lauren gone? "You could have talked to me," I said, quieter now. "If you needed freedom, you didn't have to do this." She looked away, her fingers tightening on her glass. "You wouldn't have listened," she said. "You never do." It stung, because there was a sliver of truth there. I'd been busy, distant, caught up in my own work, but that didn't justify her. Nothing did. I closed the folder, slid it back into my satchel. "Keep your freedom," I said, "but don't expect me to stick around for it." I turned and walked out, the gallery's glass doors swinging shut behind me. The desert night was cool, the stars sharp above the adobe rooftops. I could ruin her, leak the texts, tank her reputation, call Connor's bluff, or I could let her go, rebuild, find a life that didn't smell like someone else's cologne. The Polaroid was still in my pocket, a weight I wasn't ready to let go of. I kept walking, the cicadas silent for once, and felt the first stir of something new, not peace, but possibility.